The first time Maya walked into the cafeteria, she marked herself as prey. She was the new girl, quiet, with scars on her knuckles she tried to hide. She didn't know that the most dangerous predators in this school weren't the ones who would shove her onto a lunch table, but the ones who had been waiting for someone just like her to arrive. To awaken something ancient and hungry that lived beneath the town. Subscribe request: if you crave stories where the bullied become the most dangerous people in the room, hit subscribe. What happens next will change everything you think about revenge. The bell for lunch was a death knell. Maya Cruz kept her eyes on the scuffed linoleum, the map of her new prison, Oakwood High, already etched in dread. Her backpack, too light with just a single notebook, felt like a lead weight. Transitioning mid-semester was bad enough, but Oakwood had a reputation, a gladiatorial arena masked in pep rallies and school spirit. The rulers of this particular jungle were already clear: Brett Carson, his girlfriend Chloe, and their lieutenant, Derek. They held court at the central table in the cafeteria, a throne of plastic and laminate, and their currency was humiliation. Maya had drawn their attention on day one. It was her silence, her old clothes, the way she flinched at sudden noises. It was the faded, silvery scars that laced her knuckles, which she constantly curled into fists to hide. To them, it was an invitation. A week of tripping, of books knocked from her hands, of whispered taunts about the feral rat had culminated in this moment. She'd been avoiding the cafeteria, eating in a bathroom stall, but today a teacher had shooed her out, directing her to the proper dining area. She bought an apple and a carton of milk, the last of her lunch money, and scanned the periphery for an empty spot. There were none. Only the vortex of noise and laughter at the center, and the cold, observing eyes of Brett. He whispered something to Chloe, who let out a piercing giggle. Maya turned to leave. "Hey, rat." Brett's voice cut through the din. Derek moved, a hulking barrier between her and the door. "Where you going? We saved you a seat." The cafeteria quieted, a theater sensing the main act. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. "I'm not hungry," she mumbled, trying to sidestep Derek. "Sure you are." Brett stood up, all varsity jacket swagger. "We insist. Right, guys?" A chorus of agreement rose from his table. He walked over, his smile all teeth. "See, we have this tradition at Oakwood. New kids get a welcome. Helps them integrate." Before Maya could react, Derek grabbed her from behind, pinning her arms. Her apple and milk clattered to the floor. The room erupted in excited shouts. Chloe filmed with her phone, her smile vicious. "Smile for the gram, rat." "Please don't," Maya whispered, a useless breath lost in the roar. "Don't be shy," Brett said, his face close to hers. He smelled like cheap cologne and arrogance. "This is your place now." Right on the table. With a grunt from Derek and a shove from Brett, she was launched forward. She landed hard on her back atop the central lunch table, the impact driving the air from her lungs. Spilled soda soaked into her shirt, cold and sticky. A half-eaten bag of chips crumbled beneath her. The fluorescent lights glared down, a blinding jury. Hundreds of faces, some horrified, most gleeful, stared up at her. The humiliation was a physical burn, worse than any scraped knee. Tears threatened, but she bit them back, focusing on the scars on her knuckles, remembering how she got them. Not from a fall. From holding on. Brett leaned over, dripping her own milk onto her forehead. "Welcome to Oakwood, rat." It was then the first tremor hit. A deep, subaudible thrum vibrated up through the floor, rattling the trays on the table. The laughter stuttered. A plastic cup fell over. Everyone felt it, a sudden, profound wrongness, like the school had been built on the chest of a sleeping giant who had just taken a breath. "What was that?" Chloe asked, lowering her phone. "Probably a truck," Derek scoffed, but his grip on the table tightened. The second tremor was stronger. A long, lateral shake that made the ceiling tiles ripple. A crack, thin and black, zigzagged across the far wall of the cafeteria. The noise of the student body shifted from amusement to confusion, then to the first edge of panic. Maya, still splayed on the table, felt it differently. The vibration sang in her bones, a frequency that resonated with the old scars on her hands. It wasn't fear she felt pooling in her gut. It was recognition. And a deep, unsettling pull. From the dark, yawning mouth of the kitchen service doorway, a shadow detached itself. Then another. They were not rats, though they scuttled low to the ground. They were the size of large dogs, but hairless, their skin a mottled, sickly gray like a corpse left in water. Their heads were all teeth and milky, pupilless eyes. They moved in a terrifying, skittering unison, claws clicking on the linoleum. A scream, pure and undiluted, tore from a freshman near the front. It broke the spell. Chaos. The cafeteria became a storm of shoving, screaming bodies. Chairs overturned. Tables were knocked aside as students bolted for the main exits. But the things from the kitchen were fast. One leaped, a gray blur, and landed on a football player running for the door. They went down in a tangle of limbs and a wet, tearing sound. The screams multiplied. Brett, Chloe, and Derek were frozen, their cruelty evaporated, replaced by primal terror. They stared at the monstrosities now spreading through the room. Maya slowly sat up on the table. She watched, not the creatures, but the bullies. Their faces were masks of perfect, beautiful fear. One of the creatures turned its blind head toward the central table. It sniffed the air, a horrible wet snuffling sound. It began to move toward them, its companions following. "Run!" Brett screamed, his voice cracking. He, Chloe, and Derek turned and ran, not to the blocked main doors, but to the far side of the cafeteria, toward the emergency exit by the gym. They didn't look back at Maya. She was left alone on the table island in the sea of madness. The creatures closed in, circling. But Maya didn't scream. She slowly got to her feet, unsteady on the sticky surface. She looked at the lead creature, then down at her own scarred hands. The pull was intense now, a magnetic draw toward the dark kitchen doorway. A memory, long buried, surfaced. Not of a childhood accident, but of her grandmother's hands, identical scars mapping her knuckles, telling her stories in Spanish of things that lived in the deep places, of a family lineage that wasn't just a family, but a covenant. Los Guardians, she had called them. The Keepers. The memory had been a dream, suppressed by foster care and a life of moving. Until now. The lead creature crouched, ready to spring onto the table. Maya didn't flinch. Instead, she raised her scarred hand, palm out, not in surrender, but in command. She spoke a single word, a guttural syllable that didn't sound like it could come from a human throat. It was a word her grandmother had whispered to her in lullabies. The creature froze. It tilted its head, confused. The other two stopped their circling. From the kitchen darkness, a new figure emerged. It was tall, shrouded in tattered, shadow-like cloth that seemed to drink the light. Its face was hidden, but two pinpricks of amber light glowed from within its hood. It ignored the fleeing students, the carnage. It walked slowly, purposefully, toward Maya's table. The gray creatures whined and skittered back, bowing their hideous heads. The shrouded figure stopped below her. It looked up. A voice, like stone grinding on stone, echoed in her mind, not her ears. The blood has returned. The seal is broken. You woke us. Maya, her voice stronger than she felt, answered. I didn't mean to. Intention is meaningless. The act is all. The bully's violence, your blood, your fear, your anger. It was the key. It has been sleeping here, beneath this town, for generations. Waiting for a keeper to return, or for enough pain to bleed through the earth and wake it. The world shifted for Maya. This wasn't a random monster attack. This was her fault. Their cruelty had been the spark, but her presence, her latent bloodline, was the gasoline. The thing beneath the school, a ancient, slumbering horror, had been stirred by the toxic cocktail of their malice and her heritage. "What is it?" she asked, her eyes darting to where Brett and the others had fled. "A devourer. It feeds on shame, on terror, on the meat of tormentors. The bullies woke it with their feast of humiliation. Now it will feast on them. And it will grow. It will use the tunnels, the old mines beneath this town, and it will spread, unless the keeper seals it again." "How?" The shrouded figure, a servant or a warden of the thing below, extended a long, bone-like finger toward her scarred knuckles. "With your blood. With your will. You must find the heart of it, in the deepest place. And you must choose, to seal it away, or to let it cleanse this place of the cruelty that festered here long before you arrived." The emergency sirens began to wail outside. The screams in the hallway were fading, replaced by the sounds of police and chaos. But in their bubble of surreal calm, Maya knew the real horror was just beginning. It was hunting Brett, Chloe, and Derek. And it would not stop. She climbed down from the table. The shrouded figure and the gray creatures melted back into the kitchen shadows, a path inviting her into the dark. She looked toward the gym exit, where her tormentors had fled. They were in the tunnels now, she knew it. Running for their lives from a nightmare they had summoned. And she, the girl they'd thrown on a table, was the only one who could possibly save them, or condemn them. The story twists here, from a simple tale of revenge to a terrifying responsibility. Maya's journey is not to fight the monsters, but to follow them into the abyss, to find the bullies not for rescue, but for a terrible ritual that requires their fear as much as her blood. She discovers the town's dark history, founded on greed and violence that first disturbed the ancient entity. She finds Derek first, hiding in a boiler room, sobbing and broken. He tells her Brett and Chloe ran deeper, seeking a way out through the old mining shafts. Maya, guided by the whispers of the shrouded warden, secures Derek not by comforting him, but by using a drop of her blood on a rusty pipe to create a temporary, safe zone, a circle the skittering creatures will not cross. She leaves him there, his fate uncertain. She tracks the others deeper, finding evidence of the devourer's passing, pools of a strange phosphorescent slime, walls scratched with frantic, unreadable symbols. She finds Chloe's phone, shattered, near a gaping hole in a tunnel wall. The sounds that guide her are no longer just the distant skittering, but the ragged, echoing sobs of Chloe, and Brett's furious, fading shouts. When she finally finds them, the tableau is horrific. They are in a vast, natural cavern beneath the school. In the center, a pulsating, amorphous mass of darkness and teeth, the heart of the devourer, throbs. Brett and Chloe are trapped on a rocky island, surrounded by a chasm bridged only by a narrow, natural stone arch. The gray creatures are everywhere, watching. The devourer was hurting them, playing with its food. Brett sees her first. "Rat! Help us! Get us out of here!" Chloe is catatonic, clutching her knees. The shrouded warden materializes beside Maya. "The seal must be remade here, at the heart. Your blood, and the sincere terror of those who broke the peace. Their fear is the mortar. Your blood is the keystone." Maya understands the final, cruel twist. To seal the monster, she needs the bullies. Not just their presence, but their absolute, soul-crushing terror. She must corner them, make them face the abyss they unleashed. She walks across the stone arch, the creatures parting for her. Brett stares at her scars, now glowing faintly with a silvery light. You did this," he accuses, but his voice is weak. "You did," Maya says, her voice echoing in the cavern. "Your cruelty was the key. Now your fear is the lock. Or we all die, and this thing goes up to the whole town." She advances, not as a victim, but as a keeper. She forces them to the very edge of the chasm, the devourer's core pulsing hungrily below. In that moment, as they truly comprehend their end, their terror reaches its pure, undiluted peak. Maya slices her palm, her blood welling black in the eerie light. She speaks the words of binding, her voice merging with the warden's stone-grind tone. The blood drips onto the heart of the devourer. There is a silent explosion of dark light. The cavern shudders. The gray creatures dissolve into smoke. The pulsing mass of the devourer collapses in on itself, shrinking, hardening, becoming just a strange, black, obsidian-like boulder in the center of the chasm. The sense of predatory hunger vanishes, replaced by a deep, heavy silence. It is done. Brett, Chloe, and Maya are found hours later by a search team, wandering dazed in the woods miles from the school. The official story is a gas leak in the school's old foundations causing mass hysteria and tragic structural failures. Several students are missing, their fate a mystery. Brett and Chloe are transferred out of state, their families citing trauma. They never speak of what happened, of the girl they threw on a table. They can't. Maya stays. She has to. The seal needs a keeper. She visits the cavern sometimes, now accessible only through a hidden entrance in the woods. She sits by the cold, black stone. The scars on her knuckles are a little more pronounced. She knows the violence above, the casual cruelty of the world, is what feeds the thing below. Her life is not her own anymore. She is the guardian of a terrible secret. The new girl became the most powerful person in town, and its eternal prisoner. And sometimes, late at night, she feels a faint tremor through the earth, a reminder that locks need maintaining, and that the line between bully and victim, between sacrificer and savior, is thinner than anyone thinks.